Fire protection is not about protecting the buildings. It's about protecting the lives, ensuring the building has a resilience. Now, there is a growing focus on a performance-based design. When we talk about these complex buildings, we tailor fire safety measures as per the building use, its performance, and importantly, the environmental goals.
Kia ora, I'm Troy, here as Chief Executive, and welcome to Stirring the Pot. Thanks for connecting. If you're new, here's what you can expect. We're going to be talking the tough stuff, the things that keep us middle minds up at night. There are many challenges facing our industry and equally many opinions on how we should tackle them. Stirring the Pot provides a facilitated forum to discuss and challenge these viewpoints.
So let's get to the nuts and bolts of it. Today we're having a kōrero with Mayank Shrivastava, here as Senior Structural Fire Engineer around the new HIT software that is close to release. So I was wondering if you might be able to share a bit about your background and your role here at HERA.
Oh, thank you. I'm a Senior Structural Fire Engineer and a researcher at HERA. My work involves improving the fire safety strategy in steel and hybrid constructions. I have a PhD in structural fire engineering from University of Canterbury. I'm in New Zealand since 2015, and my work evolves around that. At HERA, I develop design guides, tools, lead the research, and also engaging these industry stakeholders along with it. I always like to bridge a gap between the research and the industry applications.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Obviously, you're a little bit different to the rest of our team in the sense that you're based in Ōtautahi, Christchurch.
Oh, that's right.
So it's really exciting to have you here in Tamaki Makaurau at the moment.
Thank you.
Because I think for us, getting someone on board like yourself was really important. We see structural fire as being something that's really needing some focus within our research. I wondered, why is fire protection such a critical issue in modern construction these days?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Fire protection is not about protecting the buildings. It's about protecting the lives, ensuring the building has a resilience, and most importantly, continuing the businesses as well. Now, these days, you may see that there are tall buildings, new construction materials, new construction techniques. So there are quite challenges for the fire safety designs. Now, we used to comply minimally with the building regulations. Now, there is a growing focus on a performance-based design. When we talk about these buildings, the complex buildings, we tailor fire safety measures as per the building use, its performance, and importantly, the environmental goals. So as you see that in this era, sustainability is a bigger driver in this construction. So what does it need? It needs a solution which balances not just the cost, efficiency, buildability, and also the sustainability all together at once.
Yeah, definitely a growing concern, I think, for a lot within the construction sector itself, that sustainability metric. What do you think are some of the bigger challenges our contractors and engineers are facing when it comes to these sorts of concepts in the fire safety design aspect?
As I said, that balancing act between the cost and the sustainability and the constructability is the most important challenge, and it's the biggest challenge in this industry. Now, you may see that we can protect the building by using any fire safety measures like passive ones by spray painting or by adding in sprinklers into it. But what is important here is that brings an upfront cost to the building. Now, to minimize that cost is also one of the challenge for the industry. And so what does that mean is, like, in terms of that solution, when we talk about that, it's the uncertainty to use those measures into it. And that's where all these research comes into the play, like how you can implement the new techniques, new strategies into the application.
Yes, so you did mention there things around fire sprinklers.
Yeah.
How does Intumescent coating fit into that conversation in terms of a fire safety strategy?
Oh, that's one of the most efficient fire protection strategy. And if you spray paint, if you Intumescent paint it, it looks aesthetically pleasing. and that allows the steel to be open. So how beautiful it will look in terms of if you have those paints around it. It's lightweight, and so you can use it as per, it doesn't add any weight to it. It's scalable. If you want 30 minutes fire rating or 180 minutes, it all depends on the thickness of the intumescent paint. But what it actually does is the intumescent paint acts as an insulation layer. When the fire hits the steel, the insulation takes the heat, it swells up, keep the steel temperature in check. And that's why it is important that we need to understand that it is sensitive to the application as well. There are environmental challenges in using it. Yeah.
Yes, and I guess this is part of some of the work that you've been doing at Hera, trying to unpack all of that.
Yeah, that's true. That's so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very complex. And I do know that things like hybrid construction materials are starting to gain a bit of popularity. So how would you say concepts like this are also working into the concept of fire safety design?
So in terms of the hybrid system, the steel timber hybrid is an important one, and it's quite famous these days. Now, steel timber hybrid is an exciting shift from a conventional materials to the hybrid materials. Now, timber is a combustible material. It chars, whereas the properties of the steel degrades. So if you see during the interaction phase, they both behave differently. So knowing the importance of that, how does the hybrid system behaves in the real fire is important. Also important is like currently we do the testing. It's in a controlled environment. How do they behave in a real building? All these are the challenges which we don't know anything about at the moment. But Hera is also taking an initiative in knowing how we can approach these challenges in adoption of the steel timber hybrid system.
Yes, definitely. I know it is linking into some of the low carbon design work that has been going on with partners outside of Hera as well. I do see that through clever design we can get some really impressive carbon savings, but there are those flow-on metrics such as fire safety, which will be requiring some thinking to make sure that those solutions are also going to be able to be fit for purpose to keep people safe in the buildings.
That's right.
So I think coming back to that intumescent coating conversation, what I'm starting to hear is it is complex in terms of understanding and knowing what should be used and in what cases. Could you explain exactly how you're working towards breaking down that complexity and making it a bit easier for designers?
Oh, yeah, sure. So at Hera, we have developed a tool called Hera Intumescent tool. And what that tool does is you put in the values about how much fire rating you are after and what's the section you are proposing. And so that tool comes up with a big solution where you can find out how much intumescent paint is required. Is there any better solution? Is there a better alternative to it? So it provides you all those comparisons with the better alternatives into it. And so this is the initiative at Hera we have taken where we can provide a simple but a more comprehensive tool where you can identify all those effects into it and still come up with an alternative solution which is more sustainable, can be cost effective into it.
Nice. So it's a digital software tool.
It's a digital tool, yeah.
What were people doing previous to that to try and figure out these types of data sets, I guess, for their design?
Yeah. So initially, before it was more like a conventional approach. You put pen and paper, you design it. Once it gets freezed up, you usually for the gravity loading or the seismic loading, and once it's freezed up, you design it for the fire. And then there is no coming back to find out any efficiency in there. What this tool does is the moment you design it, this tool helps you to put all those values in. It's a very minimum input into it, and it gives you some alternatives to it. Like instead of using 150 UB, if you use 180 UB, you will save fire protection material. Yeah. So that tool provides you a comparison between the different alternatives, or sometimes you don't even need the fire protection. So that tool gives you a greater insight into how you can make your design efficient and cost effective as well.
Right. So I guess then traditionally people tended to be a bit more conservative then in their coating approach.
Yeah,
Then.
that's right, I would say.
Right. So this is just a way in which you can see a range of options and you can make the most informed decision.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Excellent. So it sounds like there's a specific approach to this calculator, and I've heard it labelled the Maxi calculator approach. Could you break that down a little bit and explain what you mean by that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, Maxi calculator. What does it mean? That it simplifies the input. It makes the work of the designers, the specifiers, easier. So you don't have to put a lot of inputs into it. You don't have to perform calculations on your own. The calculator does it for you. So it's a very simple inputs and minimum data entry, and it gives you quick results. So it automates the calculation at its back and gives you the alternatives and the results at the front.
Nice one. Yeah. So has the software tool been used, I guess, in any real case scenarios to kind of play this out and see how it works?
Yeah. So it is still yet to be launched though, but we have done an intense verification for it. And what we realized, and we contacted the industries, different types of it, and we realized that it will be, and what the feedback we have received, that it will be very helpful for the fabricators, specifiers, engineers, designers, even the architects as well. So once you know the beam size, you are stuck with something which is given to you. You don't know whether, is there a way to save money? Is there a way to save environment? So this tool gives you a help where you having a minimum entries into it, you can easily find out what if you would have changed the section without compromising its structural integrity of it. What if you change a section or just change the weight of it? Can you minimize the fire protection? And that will reduce upfront cost quite a lot.
Yes, it's a much more holistic approach, I guess, because it's taking into account a number of factors, not just the amount of or the weight of, but also sustainability metrics and things like that maybe you wouldn't traditionally account for. So I really like how it's kind of optimizing the options based on a range of data sets versus just sort of a very narrowed approach.
Yeah, that's right. So apart from the cost effectiveness and finding an alternative, there is added advantage is the sustainability. The more you reduce the fire protection, the more are the chances you can use the structure. A steel structure, you can reuse it, and there are various added advantages which has not been explored yet by the industry.
Excellent. So could you unpack that sustainability aspect as well? So, I remember you saying earlier that, most people look at paint and they say it's going to be bad for the environment. Mm-hmm. So how is this fixing or addressing that sustainability conversation?
Sure. So sustainability can be achieved by multiple ways. One is by reducing the material usage. So if you can reduce the material, then it means you are using the less carbon footprint up front. So this tool helps you to do that, reducing the carbon footprint of the fire protection material. So it accounts both steel and the fire protection, and it gives you overall how much you are saving in terms of the cost. Now, the cost may or may not be directly related to the carbon footprint, because fire protection has a different carbon footprint. Steel has a different carbon footprint. What we have noticed that in terms of if you're using a low carbon steel, our verification revealed that it is directly related to that. So the most cost efficient turns out to be the more carbon efficient as well. In terms of the low carbon steel, yes. In terms of the the normal strength steel which we are using, it's a 50-50, but still it is working out like, and 50% of the chances you are reducing the carbon. If not in that process, at least you are reducing the material usage. Yeah.
Yes, I see how that all works in together. So moving forward from now, what are you expecting to happen with the software itself? I'm assuming it's going to be ready and available for industry use?
Yes, in a couple of weeks of time, it will be ready for the industry.
What do you see being the next big things that are coming up for the structural fire space and things that, we're going to have to keep looking out for?
Yes, so at Hera, we are looking for more fire safety in the hybrid construction role. Like we talked about the hybrid and the steel timber hybrid, and there are quite challenges into it. So at Hera, we are trying to explore how we can work towards it and how we can make that steel timber hybrid more adaptable to the industry. That's the one. And second is taking both fire resilience and sustainability in hand. So that is a difficult balance need to maintain. And this is where we are trying to achieve that through, and where the HIT tool, this Hera Intumescent tool, is one of the product of that. And also, if you'll see the digitizations of it, and we have noticed that the most important part is, like we talked about, I told you before that, bridging that gap. So having a tool is one thing, but letting the industry know, educating them how this can help reducing the cost and the environmental benefits is more important. So educating the industry towards it. I think this podcast will help with that.
Yeah, I guess there are some misconceptions when it comes to steel and fire, and really for any material, that we're going to have to work through and understand and unpack it so that people can design, I guess, with the best material for the project at hand.
That's true.
So what do you think? So this is obviously a digital tool that you're creating. How do you see AI and things like that disrupting the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's important. That's a very good point. So there are various ways, and AI is booming, and we should be on board with that. That's what my particular personal opinion is. So AI helps you to automate the things where we feel challenged. So in terms of the optimizing the fire strategies, if you are designing a building, usually we use the worst case scenario. Like in a performance-based design, you just go for the worst case scenario. But what does worst case scenario means is, like, you may not be thinking much about the cost. You may not be thinking much about the constructability. All you're thinking is just one scenario. So AI might help you with that, educating in that sense that you can design the building for various fire scenarios and automate that process and come up with the most cost efficient plus the safe place.
It's exciting times, right?
It is indeed, yes.
It's a bit mind-blowing at times.
Yeah, it's such a vast area, and you keep thinking where to apply these things, and it has so much places where you can use that to make the life better for everyone.
Yeah, the potential is just
It's
astronomical.
huge.
If you're willing, I guess, to incorporate it into your daily workflows, I guess is the main part of that.
That's true. Yeah.
So I wondered, did you have any final thoughts that you might want to share with us?
Yes, as we move towards more sustainable and hybrid construction methods, we need to ensure that the fire safety remains practical. It's not just practical, but the cost effective and also sustainable. So we need to think beyond the compliance as well. We need to think how we can make things better for not just for the life safety, but for the continuity of the business, not just only the life and the business, but also to make sure that there are environmental benefits to it, and how we can reduce the carbon footprint and make it a sustainable environment around our construction. And I think that will go far.
So there you go. Thanks for joining our conversation with Mayank today. If you'd like to connect more with him, you'll find his details in the show notes. At the end of the day, fire safety isn't about ticking boxes. It's about designing with confidence, protecting lives, and building smarter for the future. Whether you're an engineer, contractor, or designer, the right tools can make all the difference in turning complexity into clarity. Food for thought till we see you next time. So hit subscribe, and if you liked what you heard today, please like, review, or share with any metal minds you know. Let's spread the word. If you're keen to optimise fire protection for your projects and reduce costs while being more sustainable in your approach, be sure to check out Hera's HIT software when it releases. For more details, reach out to Mayank to have a kōrero.